It all begins on a normal day. The main character, called Yun-sung, is in a shop talking to his friends about a phone game. His comrade mentions that the title he's playing is just great because the computer automatically levels up. Our young man, upon hearing that, says that if the machine automatically upgrades, the game is not fun anymore. After that, he gets up, says goodbye to his friends and leaves. Nowadays, Yun-sung is an automatic demon hunter, and remembering that conversation he had before, he realizes the irony. A few days before that, our boy met his partner Ji-jung. The two of them talked about this and that, but things got tense when the woman reapproaches Jun-sung for not having a good job, not studying, and not seeming to care about his own future. Hearing this, the main character argues that he's focused on getting money to open his own shop, and he doesn't care about anything else. However, Jun-sung realizes that his girlfriend wants to use this excuse just to break up with him, and strikes back saying that she doesn't have much to offer him either, since her life is the same. The girl ends up getting offended, throws her soda in his face, and leaves. That same night, while Jun-sung is having dinner with his brother, a portal appears and a shark monster emerges. The beast knocks his brother unconscious and beats him up. Jun-sung tries to defend himself, but none of his blows harm the creature. At that moment, a strange menu appears in front of him and has "Auto Hunting" written large. He has nothing to lose, so Jun-sung ends up pressing the mysterious button. Suddenly, Jun-sung loses the control of his limbs, and without explanation his body moves on its own. And without any effort, the main character defeats the beast in no time and saves his brother's life. When the battle is over, Jun-sung's body feels very heavy and sore, so sore that he falls unconscious from fatigue. At the hospital, our young man meets a woman named Chai, who explains that she works for the Hunters Organization. Due to the incident with the shark-headed beast, the organization must take responsibility for the damage caused, both to the living beings and property. Chai gives Jun-sung a document and tells him to sign it so that the company will take care of everything, as this is what the law dictates. Our young man signs the papers. Chai then mentions that the reward for defeating the monster will soon be given to him. Jun-sung asks the woman what they will do with the monster's corpse. She replies that the beast belongs to whoever defeated it, because the company didn't hunt it. However, the corpse of such a weak creature is not worth much. Before leaving, the woman tells our boy that she has been given an account to the online hunter's market, where he can sell the monster's body. While being alone, Jun-sung notices that the auto-hunting button is still there, but he can't activate it unless there are enemies nearby. After that, he takes out his phone and checks the hunter's market. Considering what the woman said, he doesn't expect to get much money for his beast, but looking at the prices, Jun-sung realizes that the hunters make too much cash, since what they consider little is for him a lot. While choosing the price to sell his beast, Jun-sung notices that there's a guy offering 600 million for the live shark-headed monster. Out of sheer curiosity, Jun-sung looks at the state of his creature and he's happy to see that it's still alive, which means he can sell it for the price set before. After selling the specimen, Jun-sung made a fortune that solved his life. However, he now feels he has no clear purpose, so he decides to become a demon hunter. Jun-sung joins a gym and starts training there. He manages to find out how to activate the auto-hunting button. To do so, he must think that he has an enemy in front of him, and when his body feels it, the button will activate. Knowing this, Jun-sung trains tirelessly, although his body gets very tired after each session, as auto-hunting uses up a lot of muscle strength. With this in mind, Jun-sung starts training like crazy to strengthen his body to better withstand the power. In the process, he realizes that auto-hunting uses the power that the wearer has by default and can never exceed the limits of that power. In other words, this power uses what is there. If you're weak, then you're fucked. After much practice, Jun-sung gets a strong body and he now feels ready to be a hunter. In order to recruit hunters, the government asks for high physical and mental performance. Fortunately, our boy manages to pass the exam and now all that remains is to pass the physical test. While training on the gym, Jun-sung realizes that he must acquire skills on his own and become stronger, because if the auto-hunting disappears, he will be helpless. After several months of hard work, our young man manages to pass the test with the highest score, and he is placed in a special class of aspiring hunters. The classes begin, and the main subjects are 4: self-defense, terrain exploration, weapon handling, and most importantly, taking control of the prey. The instructor explains that hunters make a lot of money because after hunting, the beast's body can be sold for experiments. But it's not as easy as it sounds. If the creature is delivered in a shitty way, the value is radically reduced. That's why they have to knock out the creature without killing them. In order to teach them how to do it, the teacher gives them a test. The one who defeats the practice robot will pass. The first to try is a nasty fellow named Kent, but he fails miserably. Our young man is volunteering. Once in the ring, Young-suk passes the test in a matter of seconds. The teacher praises him and tells everyone that this is what they should do, to knock out the monster as quickly as possible. Because after all, those creatures are commodities and the less damage, the better. Our boy asks the instructor if he can upgrade the robot to level 2. The teacher says yes, but he has to be careful as this difficulty will cause him a lot of problems. Young-suk's goal is to see if all the training was useful. He wants to beat the level 2 robot because the shark-headed beast was the same level. Our young man, without using auto-hunting, manages to defeat the practice android without any problems, showing that he has improved so much that even without using his powers, he can defend himself. All his classmates praise him and applaud. After practice, the teacher and the protagonist meet to talk. In the conversation, Johnson asks the instructor why he put him in a special class. He replies that it was because his qualities are very balanced. With this in mind, the teacher offers our boy a deal. The professor says that his future goal is to open a hunter agency, but as the big companies have already taken the best ones, he decided to become an instructor to recruit future promises. Johnson is one of them. With this in mind, the guy offers Johnson information to pass the final test, with the condition that when he graduates, he chooses his agency. Our young man is grateful for the consideration, but declines the offer as he does not want to take shortcuts. His goal is to become a hunter with his own skills, whatever it might take. After that, he gets up and leaves. When the professor is alone, he phones one of his associates and tells him about the protagonist, mentioning that the boy has the potential to be one of the best hunters, and that is why he should be recruited at any cost. One day, Yoon-suk gets a storage slot, where he can place any object and food. Our young man realizes that he can use that slot and feed himself automatically, which will give him more time to train for the final test. After a month, at the start of the hunter's test, we realize that Yoon-suk has made an incredible progress. While the students were waiting, there were whispers that several small and medium-sized agencies are watching the students to recruit the most promising ones. Suddenly, a modern car pulls up in front of the building, and two people get out. Jae-hak, the best independent hunter, and Eun-seo, his younger sister. The little girl is there to give an exception and to get the hunter's license. Jae-hak immediately notices our young man's presence and, just like a stalker, goes after him and asks him how he managed to build those muscles. Our young man is amazed by Jae-hak's speed. The guy asks our young man if he can touch him to check his muscles as he finds it unbelievable that he has trained his body so proportionately. Our protagonist is put off by the request, but allows it. The guy touches Johnson and now is even more impressed. After doing that, he asks him who the instructor is. That's when the teacher appears and says it's him. Jae-hak gives him a card and very excitedly tells him that the three of them must meet to talk about the routines. With nothing more to say, the experienced hunter takes his sister and heads for the building. On the way, Jae-hak warns Eun-seo that she should be on her guard because she will have a hard time getting first place in this exam. For his part, Johnson thinks Jae-hak is a very eccentric guy. The test is about to begin, and the spokesman tells them that in order to pass the exam, they must face each other in a duel. The one who stands up will win. So everyone prepares to be taken to the jungle. Before leaving, Johnson realizes that Eun-seo has bad intentions, as his auto-hunting is activated when he senses her presence. The rules are simple. The ones with the most points at the end wins, and only those with 72 or more points will pass. Without further explanation, the exam begins. Johnson takes a deep breath and throws himself into the jungle, determined to win. At the very beginning, the main character defeats one of his rivals. Eun-seo does the same, but instead of one, she defeats two of them. Outside the battlefield, all the agents set their eyes on the young girl, as she is the reason why they are there. Suddenly, the main character's teacher, who is called Kim, starts chatting with Jae-hak. It seems that they are all acquaintances. During the chat, they both mention that their pupils are the biggest threat to each other, and it will be exciting to see who is gonna take the first place. Our young man manages to hold out until the end of the exam, taking advantage of that slot that allows him to store food. He manages to feed on the wild plants of the jungle. At this point, Jungsung is thankful for the terrain exploration classes as he learned which things are edible and which are not. Suddenly, Ansel emerges from the bushes and attacks him. Our young man realizes that the girl has her eyes on him for some reason, and so he decides to play along and provokes her. The two of them smash each other's asses hard and fearlessly. In the crash, Johnson realizes the young girl is way faster than he is, so much that he doesn't have time to activate the auto hunting. All the spectators are amazed at the level of the two, as they don't look like rookies. The duel is progressing, and neither of them wants to give in. And if that wasn't enough, there are less than 20 minutes to go before the exam is over. In that time, our young man is put on the ropes and almost defeated. Luckily, Johnson remembered the advice of his instructor, who told him that in a critical and unpredictable case, it is best to step forward and not to fall back. Our young man uses his willpower and pushes his opponent. However, he doesn't knock her out as she holds on and doesn't fall to the ground. The whistle blows and the test is over. After everything is settled, the organization reveals the points, and our hero takes the first place with twice as many points as the runner-up. Uncial lost by a wide margin. All the spectators are shocked by the result, as the girl was the favorite to take the first place. In the participants' lockers room, several desperate agents show up to negotiate with Jungsung, but they get the unpleasant news that he's been gone for a while. The agents immediately become hysterical and go in search of Jungsung. Uncial is left pensive, as her brother was right. Getting to the top spot was going to be tricky. In the meantime, the tired main character fell asleep in the bathroom. When he woke up, it was already after 3 a.m., and just as he was about to call for a taxi, Jaehak appears with Uncial. The girl thanks Jungsung for the confrontation, as she learned a lot, and apologizes for being rude before the test. Embarrassed, the girl returns to the car, while Jaehak explains to Jungsung that, thanks to him, his sister was able to learn that the world is a huge place and anything can happen. He congratulates him on his achievements and offers him a lift. Our young man wants to avoid the awkward moment with Uncial, and so he makes an excuse not to go. Jaehak says goodbyes and leaves. At that moment, Kim enters the scene. Our boy takes the opportunity to tell him that it was thanks to his classes that he was able to pass the exam, as he put many of his methods in practice. Kim offers Jungsung a lift, and Jungsung accepts without hesitation. On the way, our young man receives several messages in which big companies are offering him to join their teams. The protagonist can't believe it, since 8 months ago this would have been unthinkable. Jungsung realizes what he's getting at, and questions him about it. The teacher replies that this time he was testing him to see what kind of person he was. It is then that Kim mentions the concept of core purity among hunters. Jungsung comments that he knows the idea. What is called core is a power that increases human capabilities to the maximum, and purity refers to the body of a hunter who has not yet received any core. Kim adds that hunters need to obtain a core, otherwise they will stagnate. The problem lies in how to obtain this power increase, as it is very costly and difficult to do. There are two ways to obtain a core. The first is to buy the ingredients and pay for the procedure. The second is for hunters with a core to share their power with another hunter. The teacher reveals that in the past he was a hunter and got first place in the entrance exam. Because of that, he enjoyed quite an active career, but due to an oversight, one of those monsters poisoned him. As a result, his body and core rendered useless, and he had to retire. After his recovery and despite having a fortune, Kim opted to continue working with the aim of finding new talents, training them and making them reach the top of the hunter's ranking. After saying that, Kim offers the protagonist his core so that he can achieve his goal of being the best hunter. Our young man accepts. Once in the lab, Jungsung surprises the scientist who performs the procedure, as the absorption of Jungsung's core is 100%, when the normal is 60%. The specialist mentioned that Jungsung's power is equivalent to 10 cores. Suddenly, a portal appears. Immediately, our young man sets off with the rest of the hunters to defeat the creatures that are likely to appear. While in the vehicle, Jungsung learns that the beasts he must defeat are called militarized great ants. Before arriving at the center of the conflict, Jungsung remembers that Kim advised him to use the core for as long as possible to get used to it. Without hesitation, our young man prepares to fight the ants, at which point a veteran hunter scolds him for playing the hero. Our young man turns a deaf ear and jumps straight right in. Everyone is surprised because they don't understand how a rookie is so confident. Yusung defeats several ants with his bare hands, leaving everyone speechless. However, the leader of the insects enters the scene, the centurion ant. The protagonist realizes that the beast controls the rest, which means that if he defeats it, it's all over. With this in mind, Yusung jumps up, climbs onto the back of the insect's neck, and using brute force separates the bug's head from its body. All the hunters are left astonished by Yusung's qualities. Far from stopping, the ants begin to move randomly, so the hunters set out to wipe them out. Meanwhile, Yusung decides to take a break and then help. Our boy thinks that the job of a hunter is very simple, but suddenly a rank 4 ant appears and bites one of the hunters. The monster starts to wreak havoc. Yusung does not contemplate the option of escaping, as the queen ant is not likely to let him live. With that in mind, our hero stands up. The captain of the squadron, far from congratulating them, tells him to run away, since the monster is practically invincible. Johnson says that he doesn't want to fight, but the creature leaves him no choice. Before starting the fight, Johnson tells his superior to escape with the rest of the recruits, while he fights against the queen to make time. The captain doesn't want to at first, but eventually gives in. Our hero fights the monster. The clash is a close one, so Johnson is forced to use auto-hunting. However, the insect soon gets the upper hand as it has an overwhelming advantage. It can fly, while Johnson cannot. The battle progresses and our hero is cornered. At that critical moment, a new button appears on the auto-hunting. Our young man presses it and manages to accumulate a large amount of energy in his fist. As the beast approaches, Johnson takes the advantage of it and throws a punch that knocks the beast to the ground. In the meantime, the hunters arrive to help and couldn't believe that Johnson has defeated a rank 4 monster on his first mission. Incredulous about the situation, everyone here says that Johnson probably received help from unregistered hunters or something like that. Then, some elite warriors interrupt the brawl by claiming that Johnson defeated the Ant Queen on his own. Everyone turns around and is surprised to find that QR Corporation hunters were watching the whole thing. The next day, our young man starts training to strengthen his body as his new technique, assault skill, requires more stamina to increase the range. Kim enters the room and tells Johnson the numbers they achieved in the previous mission, before showing him the envelope. The two of them talk about banal things. In the meantime, Johnson thinks he should tell Kim about auto-hunting since he's done so much for him. Just when our young man was about to tell him about it, Kim steps forward and remarks that he doesn't have to tell him his secret if he doesn't want to. It's best to tell him when they both have full confidence in each other. Johnson agrees and promises to tell him his secret later. Kim, after doing some very complicated math, informs our boy that in the previous mission he managed to raise more than 60 million. Johnson thanks Kim for taking care of the accounting. Suddenly, Kim receives a call from his friend who informs him that the CEO of QR Corporations wants to meet with Johnson. The professor explains to our boy that the guy is very well known. 12 years ago, a never-before-seen creature called Karkadon appeared, a huge level 6 monster. No one could stand against the beast until Kangchun organized a team to defeat Karkadon. After a fierce battle, he succeeded and gained worldwide recognition. His achievement was ranked 5th in the world and he was named one of the best hunters on the planet. When Johnson meets Kangchul, he doesn't think twice and asks him to join QR Corporations. The main character realizes that he doesn't like to work in a team because his auto-hunting will be hindered if he does so. Johnson rejects the offer and comments that he wants to remain under the care of his current team for the meantime. Kangchul accepts the boy's decision, but before leaving he asks him if he wants to be the next Jehak and work alone. This guy tells that his corporation has another project, one focused on creating another free hunter like Jehak. He also mentions that they'll soon be sending a squad of candidates into the Dimensional Rift, that portal where the beasts come out of, to see their skills, and that the one who defeats the monsters will get a big bounty. Kangchul gives his personal phone number to Johnson and leaves. Our hero is left thinking about the offer. As Kangchul is leaving the building, he runs into Kim, immediately recognizes him, and remembers that Kim in the past achieved something similar to Jehak. As Kangchul connects the dots, he realizes that Kim beat him to it and recruited Johnson first. In the meantime, the protagonist and the professor start chatting. Our young man says that he wants to go to the Dimensional Rift because he wants to experience fierce combat in that environment. Kim understands our young man and tells him that in order to win, he must learn a new technique that will give him a great advantage. While in the training room, it is explained to us that there are 3 types of power in the world, which are essential to being a hunter. The first is the vital energy, also called Ki. The second is the Phi, mental energy, which allows the user to use ignition, telekinesis, telepathy, and pyrokinesis. And finally there is the technique, in which unique abilities can be developed on the basis of discipline. After that, Kim shows our young man a technique to walk on any surface, and tells him that he must master it in 2 months, otherwise he won't be going to the dimensional rift. After that, Kim shows our young man a technique to walk on any surface, and tells him that he must master it in 2 months, otherwise he won't be going to the dimensional rift. After doing the demonstration, Kim falls to the ground and starts spitting blood. His body cannot withstand the hunter's technique. The teacher explains to Yoonsung that his technique has a key concept, the style of walking. Every living being has a particular way of moving, and this is due to its body. If he understands the basic idea, there will be no problems. 2 months later, Yoonsung finds himself in front of the dimensional rift, ready to enter. Before the operation begins, Kangchul introduces our hero to the other recruits. As they gave him a cold welcome, Yoonsung realizes that they don't want him there, because they see him as an intruder. Kangchul's aim is to create rivalry between Alpha Squad leader and the future Beta Squad leader. If all goes according to plan, Yoonsung will improve exponentially. As soon as he arrives to the team, Jang the leader mocks Yoonsung for having a basic suit of armor. Yoonsung doesn't even flinch and replies that his suit will arrive soon. It is said and done, and a few minutes later, a guy brings an elite suit of armor to him. All the recruits are surprised to see the brand name, as this is the company that makes the best armor. Apparently, instead of selling the Queen's Ant's body, our hero used it to make a very powerful suit. Smart. Everyone praises Yoonsung's armor, which is called the Queen's Arm. Jang is very upset since his intention from the beginning was to put Yoonsung in his place. He wants to make him feel like an outsider. Seeing that his plan to harm our boy failed, Jang decides to use his position and leave him out of the first mission inside the dimensional rift. Everyone prepares to face a rank 4 green monster. Things soon get complicated as there is no longer one enemy but 2. Jang's soldiers are overwhelmed by the power of the beasts and are cornered. Our young man decides to disobey Jang's orders and intervenes. Our young man takes one of the beasts and saves the squad captain. When things calm down, the recruits apologize to Jang for leaving him stranded on the grounds, claiming that things were too dangerous and they prefer to regroup. The leader decides to swallow his anger. He tells Yoonsung that they must flee as the mission was a failure. Unsurprisingly, the protagonist ignores Jang's orders and chooses to take on 2 rank 4 green monsters. The leader can't believe the protagonist's recklessness. At the same time, at QR headquarters, Kangchul learns that Yoonsung has enormous potential, so much that he is currently at the same level as Kim in his prime. It's estimated that in only 2 months, Yoonsung will increase his strength even more. When Kangchul learns of this, he makes it his goal to recruit the protagonist to his company no matter what. Suddenly, Jang contacts the CEO and informs him that the mission failed because 2 grade 4 monsters appeared. Kangchul orders him to stand down and asks if Yoonsung agrees with him. Jang denies because our boy went to confront the green beasts by himself. Kangchul is furious and demands Jang to look for Yoonsung before they all go to pieces. Our young man puts into practice the technique that Kim taught him, the one that allows him to move on any surface, Spider Walk. Using this ability, Yoonsung manages to get to the tentacled creatures entangled with each other, thus knocking out the rank 4 beasts. Soon after, Kangchul congratulates Yoonsung for his works, and he says that he will give him anything. Our young man says something. Kangchul is surprised by the request, but agrees. At the same time, we meet a squad of experienced hunters working for the QR Corporation. The team is led by a woman named Shin, and after completing an assignment, the captain receives a call from Kangchul, who mentions the new recruit, Yoonsung. Soon after, the main character meets Shin. Our hero explains to her that he wants to join her squad to explore the dimensional rift, since if he stays on Jang's team, he is likely to be left out. The woman agrees to his request, but warns him not to endanger the squad members. Without warning, the captain of the Maruchan squad comes out of the dimensional rift and falls to the ground. All the soldiers are shocked to see this, as he was the only one from his squad to return. Suddenly, a swarm of flying monsters emerges from the portal. The recruits comment that such beasts are called Santiga, and usually appear in North America. With that hesitation, Shin orders his men to mobilize and begin to shoot down the flying creatures. In the meantime, several squads request to cancel the exploration as many dangerous creatures have appeared, claiming that killing them is not their obligation since scouting is not part of the contract. Hearing that, Kangchul becomes furious and he says that the hunters must face the beasts, that is their duty.
After saying that, he takes a breath and calms down. He allows the hunters who want to desert the exploration to do so. Knowing that things were going to get even more complicated, Kangshul decides to go to the battlefront to finish off the beasts and avoid a catastrophe. At the same time, Shin's team is giving it all to stop the advance of the monsters, but there seems to be no end in sight. The only way to put an end to this situation is to close the dimensional rift, a difficult thing to do as it is infected by creatures. Luckily, Junsung enters the scene. The captain asks him why he came back. Our young man replies that he never planned to leave, he just went to look for weapons to finish off the flying monsters. After that, the two of them agree to close the dimensional rift together. Junsung is going to be in charge of keeping the beasts distracted, while Shin will take the opportunity to close the portal. The two agree that Shin will ride on Junsung's back, since our boy is the only one with an ability that allows him to move anywhere. Both of them fearlessly rush into danger, defeat several flying bugs, and reach the center of the dimensional rift. Inside the portal, Junsung and the captain come across the battlefield full of bodies. It is the Maruchan squad. They were defeated before they could close the rift. They see a machine called the Fracture Breaker, which is used to close the portal. The only problem is that they need to charge it with life energy. Shin notices that the Maruchan squad managed to fill it almost full, with only a bit of energy missing. With that in mind, the captain decides to activate it using her power. Suddenly, a level 6 Santiga Prime appears. It is the beast that slaughtered the Maruchan team. Shin asks Junsung to take care of the beast for a few minutes, as long enough for her to activate the machine and close the portal. With no hesitation, Junsung agrees and confronts the beasts. The battle is a rough one, however, as the monster outmatches him in strength and speed. Seeing himself cornered, Junsung uses the technique Assault Skill to concentrate all of his power in his fist. When the beast approaches him, Junsung attacks it and manages to damage it severely. The beast is trying to escape, but Junsung doesn't let it. He pulls out the harpoon he had stored in his special slot and shoots it. At the same time, Shin tells him that they must flee since the machine has been activated and the portal is about to close. Seeing as the beast wanted to get out of the rift, Junsung opts to use it as a means of transportation. With this in mind, he takes Shin's hand and uses the harpoon's chain to guide the creature to the exit and thus escapes from the portal. With the rift closed, Shin attacks the beast and knocks it out. Before the flying monster fell, our boy and the captain jump to a nearby building and rests there. When Shin goes to congratulate Junsung on his work, he realizes that Junsung has fallen asleep from exhaustion. When our hero opens his eyes, he realizes he's in a hospital. After a while, Kim appears and hands him a box with an object inside. Seeing the contents of the package, our young man can't believe it, but what follows next is something you'll see in another video.